South Carolina. This harsh transition is the reality for Brendan Brown. Growing up in North Charleston, Brendan carries a massive, God-given vision to launch his own enterprise, St. Matthew Media Productions. But that vision faces an immediate, localized threat. His father operates strictly on a traditional sweat equity model. In that worldview, physical labor at a designated clock-in and out location is the only legitimate form of work. That belief culminates in a rigid ultimatum. Brendan is told to take a brutal, exhausting job at the deli counter, miles away from his creative workspace. This creates an impossible trap. If Brendan submits completely to slicing meat all day, his intellectual property dies from sheer physical exhaustion. If he rebels outright, his home life fractures. To survive, he has to engineer a third option. Brendan executes a calculated maneuver. He accepts the grocery store job, but he treats it strictly as a tactical decoy. He maintains the front, enduring the long commute and standing for hours under harsh lights. It satisfies his father's traditional definition of hard work. The operational flaw here is capacity. The intense physical demands of the deli counter drain him so thoroughly that when he finally gets home, he has exactly zero energy left to draw, write, or produce his children's books. To protect his calling, he realizes he only needs to keep this physical facade going long enough to secure a covert alternative, one that pays well enough to avoid arousing his father's suspicion. Surviving an outdated economic model sometimes requires playing by its rules just long enough to plot your digital escape. Behind the scenes, Brendan launches his shadow operation. He quietly interviews for and secures flexible roles as a retail sales associate and an inside sales rep. These roles change the fundamental mechanics of his day. They prioritize communication over backbreaking manual labor. He finishes his shifts with his body intact and his mental focus sharp enough to return to his primary mission. By leaning into flexible hours and structures, he starts generating capital by leveraging his intellectual skills instead of his physical endurance. Look at this split-screen chart mapping his energy expenditure. On the left, the deli job rapidly drains his physical battery to zero, killing any chance of creative output. On the right, the sales roles preserve his physical energy while still driving a green upward trend in capital. Every drop of that preserved physical energy, along with his new commission checks, is immediately funneled back into his true work, illustrating, editing, and independently publishing his children's book. Strategic resource reallocation, shifting entirely from a sweat equity model to a high-leverage digital framework, proves to be the ultimate survival tactic for a modern creator. Every commission check from the sales floor was systematically invested into professional microphones, high-end software. This sustained period of secret funding and late-night production eventually pushes the fragile idea across the finish line. The best is yet to come becomes a published reality. As metrics stabilize, the need for shadow jobs evaporates. Brendan steps away from retail to operate full-time as CEO of St. Matthew Media Productions. These rising metrics prove his property is reaching a global audience, all bankrolled by shadow jobs. Brendan's journey redefines high-performance labor. Building a media empire demands a different type of endurance, one that prioritizes the strategic preservation of creative energy over the simple accumulation of hours on a time clock. Fulfilling a divine calling sometimes means satisfying the world's demands on paper, just to buy the freedom to build your legacy in secret. When unshakable faith meets calculated work, the resulting success is truly built through adversity.